Welcome to it. It's Tuesday, and after a week's break, we are back here. BLOGZ on Ballz with me, Ben Karpinski, and my co-host, Simply Sean. We have probably, I'm going to call it right now, our 11th show is going to be our best show ever. Sean, I know I can't pick Super Brew games for a damn, but I'm quite confident that today's show is going to be an absolute cracker.
Oh, absolutely. Guests in the studio.
Sean, you just killed my intro. I was about to go, why?
I couldn't keep it within myself. I had to get it out.
Guys, we have our first guest in the studio today. It's a new feature we've got. Basically, we want to bring people in to educate us on their chosen sports. Sean and I, we know a fair amount of cricket, golf, football, that kind of stuff. Rugby, of course, as well. Let's not forget that one. So today we have water polo players. Now, you might not know a lot about water polo. I know that I'm very bad at it. That's probably why I didn't do it at school. But we have two girls today who are very good at it. So good, in fact, that they're going to the World Championships. So we'll get to meet them a little bit after our headlines. So we got live studio guests. We have, of course, Keegan Kruger, our football analyst. We've also got Barry Havengar from Golf Digest talking golf. Quite a lot of golf happening at the moment. Of course, Tiger won the Players' Championships. And then we might have a special guest in the second hour. We just need to make sure that station manager Simon Hill can work through the contract. And of course, if we have money to Skype him. Yes, we're bringing in the big names. But of course, we always have lots and lots of good sporting stories for you. And we have some trivia today, hey Sean?
Yes, a couple of trivia questions. I thought we'd have a new feature in the show.
Yes, well, first the bounce trivia is, how many Afrikaners is too many Afrikaners in a rugby team? You can tweet us your answers all day at Ballz Radio, or on Twitter as well, at simplysean_, or at follow the bounce. But Sean, you have an actual proper trivia question.
Oh, nothing against yours. I thought it was a pretty good trivia question.
Yeah,
to be honest with today's news. I think what I want to look at today, folks, is there's been a lot of managerial changes in the English Premier League this week, and there was a big record that was being set last year by 3 managers. Up until last week, the longest 3 serving Premier League managers were Sir Alex Ferguson at Manchester United for 26 years, Arsene Wenger at Arsenal for 17 years, and David Moyes at Everton for 11 years.
Wow, that's long.
That long. Now that's all going to change next year, obviously, with Moyes moving and Ferguson moving. So as it stands right now, Arsene Wenger will be the longest serving manager. I'd like to know from you guys if you know who the second longest serving manager will be.
Ooh. Okay, footballists. That's a good question. Sean, if you wouldn't mind just tweeting that, so people can.
I will tweet that.
You will tweet that. So follow at simplysean_. Sean, this is our longest intro ever. Yeah, because we're not going to bring you in just yet. We're just going to tell you that this is exactly like our 11th show. So bear with us if every now and again I mess something up. But so far so good. This is our best show ever. And to commemorate that, and to commemorate him coming into the country this weekend, we're going to open up with a little bit of Snoop Dogg. Solid start to the show today. Snoop Dogg, who's performing on Sunday, Sean.
You're asking me a Snoop Dogg question?
I am indeed.
Yeah, sure, Sunday, let's go.
Yeah, let's go Sunday. Soccer City. Wow, what a concert that's going to be. Okay, so we told you we had 2 guests in today. Girls, are you? Let me just check if your mics are on.
Hello.
Let's give it a little hello, a little check there. As Darren walks in. Morning, Darren.
Morning, Darren.
Yes, Darren, surprised the show's coming along. We now have guests. Okay, so we've got Anka and we've got Kelsey. They are from the SA Women's Water Polo team. Girls, if you can give me a slight intro as far as the positions you play, how long you've been playing, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Come a little bit closer to the mic.
I'm Anka.
Don't be shy. It doesn't bounce back.
I know.
Okay.
I play goalkeeper.
Uh-huh.
Been playing for... Wow.
16 years.
Yeah, about 16 years now.
So how old are you now?
I'm 25, turning 26.
Okay. You can do the maths on that one.
Yes.
Okay, right. So long time.
Yes, very long time.
Okay. And Kelsey, you?
I'm Kelsey, and I'm a centre back defender. So that's your whole man marker. So I don't know if you know water polo, but
okay. Well, look. What we're going to do is
that?
you're educating us today. So a whole man marker, which I have no idea what it is, but apparently, I mean, it sounds like it's quite a hands-on sort of job. So you're the whole man marker, and you've been playing for how long?
I've been playing for 14 years now.
Okay, so you girls are very familiar with the smell of chlorine and long hot summer's days.
It's like my weekly perfume.
Yeah.
Weekly perfume.
Great.
Okay, so we got Anko and Kelsey with us the whole day today, well, the whole show up until 12. So they've qualified for the World Champs. So they're going to Barcelona in July, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So we can learn a little bit more about the sport of water polo, the women's game, and of course how we can help them get there. Of course, it is an amateur sport, so they need a little bit of help. As all sadly, Sean, this is actually a topic that we should really bring up one day on the show. Is I suppose you can call them second-tier sports, without any disrespect to what you guys do.
I'm sure they get that a lot.
I think second tier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although Simon Hill refers to it as this being a third tier show on Ballz, which I took great offence to.
Almost a compliment. Almost a compliment.
I don't think so. Okay, so we're going to get to that. But first up, our first feature of the week, of course, is the headlines. Now, Sean, we were talking about this just before we went onto air. Too many Afrikaners in the Sharks rugby team, allegedly, apparently, perhaps according to Keegan Daniel.
Yeah, according to like the very reliable sources that were done without a quote this morning, I read that Keegan Daniel apparently hates all the Afrikaners in the team.
Well,
too many Afrikaners at the Sharks. How 70s?
How 70s? Look, there are a couple of theories going that that there's some cliques forming. Keegan doesn't quite lead the team as he would like to because of these. And there was only 6 players on the field that weren't Afrikaans.
Yes, apparently.
Trust this.
Well, definitely then. Yeah.
Trust this country to come up with some more ridiculous things on how to marginalize people. But anyway, I don't know. Like, the Sharks are currently 11th in the log. They're doing so badly they're even behind the Stormers. So I think that they'll clutch any sort of reason to...
Yeah, dealing with our lowest moments on radio right here. No, seriously, I just think I get really upset when people report irresponsibly about rugby with no journalistic integrity because, well, that's our job.
Well, exactly. If they can do it, what are we going to do?
Absolutely.
Spot on, Sean. Okay. Roberto Mancini has been sacked by Man City. Of course, they did lose to Wigan in the FA Cup final in what they probably thought was a done deal. So no silverware, didn't defend the Premiership, and he's out.
Yeah, geez, Manchester City, all the billions of dollars, yet they're still City. It's ridiculous. That marks the year anniversary of them winning the championship last year.
Yeah.
Is Roberto Mancini getting fired?
Yeah, it's quite a cool twist of fate, but I mean, that is, of course, the nature of the beast. Managers are going in and out, and I suppose this time of year, and we'll touch on this with Keegan from the Pundits a little bit later, this time of year, it very much is. It's like one of those parties at Danefirm with keys. It's in and out all over the place.
Yeah, well, this brings us, we got a right question to our trivia answer.
Already?
Tyler Masutu is on the ball. He says the second longest serving manager in the English Premier League is Tony Pulis, which is correct. Tony Pulis at Stoke. Will be there for 7 years, the second longest serving.
Wow.
Now, what made it kind of funny when I was researching this, I was looking for the third longest serving manager. It was going to be Roberto Martinez.
Uh-huh.
No, sorry, Roberto Mancini. After,
Really?
for 3.5 years, that would have been the third longest serving manager.
That's crazy.
Now
yeah.
he's been fired. So the next one in line would have been Roberto Martinez at Wigan at 3 years.
Uh-huh.
And Wigan could probably get relegated tonight. We're going to have a scenario next year, probably, where we're going to have one manager's managed for 17 years, one manager for 6, everyone else no longer than 2.
Well, I remember watching a program on the Discovery Channel about heart attacks and the threats in the Premiership for managers, and your stat there just proves it. Okay, we'll get into some more of that with Keegan, obviously, in our football section. Next headline is Rebels coach hails Beale's courageous decision. Now, Curtly Beale has taken indefinite leave from rugby. Obviously, we've talked about Curtly many, many times in the show about his alcohol problems and his sort of fisticuffs. But what is the deal with this guy, seriously? Like, do you think it's just inherent in who he is as a player, that he'll never come back from this?
What? I just think he likes the sauce, mate.
Or is it just because are they making a lot of the fact that he's just Australian?
Well, it's a little bit of both, really. I mean, we've talked on the show a lot about like kind of Australian rugby drinking culture in the show.
Sure,
what warrants alcoholism, what warrants just blowing off steam beforehand. And Curtly Beale certainly seems to straddle the line between the two once we're doing the debate.
Well, yeah, he's a bit of a frisky rhino in that way because you think, he's quite bullish. He likes to get into the tough stuff, and obviously it's all about the sauce. So, what are you going to do with him?
It's been important to note as well that I think because he was first banned for an indefinite period, and you and I both alluded to that could well just be trying to like kind of exaggerate it with the view to sweep it under the carpet at some point to be available for the Rebels again. Indefinite a period again. At the risk of sounding cynical, wouldn't be too surprised if that means it opens up him playing against the Lions.
Oh, whatever it is. Prodigious talent. It's a shame that he can't control himself. Okay, Sean, we're going to go into a couple of stats here. Now, ladies, bear with us. We try offer a very sort of critical, analytic approach to sport here because we like an audience from all kinds of backgrounds. The Kings have now won 3 games in Super Rugby, Sean.
Yes.
Now, this is quite something, and I've forgotten the guy's name. I think Warren Povey sent me something on Twitter yesterday about what that actually means compared to other teams that didn't do so well. So, basically, the Kings, look, everyone's going to talk about the fact that they deserve their spots, and then this promotion relegation match, if they happen to have a bad week, it would be a huge injustice to see them go because they've actually done so well.
Yeah, definitely. Look, with Warren Povey, it is Warren Povey that did that.
Yeah.
That did the statistic, right? Yeah, he was
Yeah.
very clever in looking at, because it's 11 games gone. He can compare it statistically with the Super 12, in that when teams could finish a whole season in 11 games. Obviously now guys have 16, but if you can compare with the South African teams that have finished bottom of the log in Super 12 history, you can compare it now with the Kings. And a whole bunch of guys managed to pull off finishing bottom of the log with only 2 wins, 1 win, sometimes 0 wins.
Well, it's
So-
quite something, because if you would just take their 3 wins, okay, that already puts them above. Now, this is, well, I mean, obviously we can't always remember what these teams were like, but that is better than the 2009 Cheetahs, who only won twice. This is better than the 2005 Sharks, who only won once. Better than 2002 Bulls, zilch, not a single win.
Yeah. I think that was Heineke Meyer's first year as Bulls coach as well.
Yeah. They were better than the 2001 Bulls, only 2 wins. They're better than the 2000 Sharks, only 1 win. Jeez, the Sharks, I can't remember them being so bad. Better than the 99 Bulls with 1 win. So, look, there's a couple of other ones that come in there as well. The Lions, of course, take a lot of stats. I'm not going to go into all the,
Yeah.
all the times they got less than 3 wins.
This is pathetic for us to hold on to, that the Stormers have never finished bottom.
Yes. No, I'll take whatever I get with the Stormers right now. But look, the bottom line here, before we start going on too many stats, is that the Kings definitely have their place. Yes, they took 70 against the Waratahs, and yes, they may take another hiding before the tournament's out. But the thing is that they've proved beyond doubt that they do have a place here. And if they had, say, 2 or 3 more players with this sort of work ethic and sort of attitude towards playing, they definitely have their place here.
Look, it's just a lovely story. Yes, they're bottom of the conference, but it ended up being a lovely story. A team that was assumed that it wasn't there on merit. Well, they weren't selected on merit. Of course they weren't.
Yeah,
they were brought up not on merit, and they've justified themselves on merit. I think it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, indeed. Right, Sean, the other one is Tiger wins the Players' Championships. Now, look, I don't really watch too much of that over the weekend. I have one of those non-sporting weekends. But we got Barry coming in just after 11 to talk more about Tiger. But this is a big tournament to win. The unofficial 5th major, as they always talk about.
Do a few label themselves as the 5th major, or is this one
Just this one.
A genuine claim to the unofficial
Genuine
title?
claim. It's the biggest winning check in golf. It's the strongest field in golf. And there's a bit of a person who wins it, though. They don't normally go on to do too else. Sergio Garcia being a prime example, who incidentally was the guy who basically choked against Tiger this weekend, handing him the victory. So we'll talk about Barry with that. A couple more headlines to go. We're going to get back to the girls. The IPL is still going on. We can confirm that for you.
Yes, there was a match the other day. It happened.
Yeah.
Someone might have won. I can't confirm that. But
It's still on,
going.
and I'm pretty sure Danny Morrison is still trying to pick up Indian girls. And Zimbabwe and Bangladesh did play a match. So the world of cricket is still ticking over, although we're not really covering it at the moment. Girls, before we get back to you, song request, what would you like?
Bruno Mars.
Bruno
What is
Mars?
When I Was Your Man.
When
My
I Was
favourite
Your
song,
Man.
please.
Okay, we'll come back to that. I'll have to find that. That's quite obscure. Talking to someone who's obviously not a Bruno Mars fan. So, just quickly, what's your sort of day-to-day or week-to-week training? Do you girls get in the pool every single day?
Most days.
Most days.
Yes.
Maybe Sunday would be a break day, but otherwise you want to be in the water as much as you can, and then in the gym as well, as much as you can, at least.
Okay, I woke up this morning at around 7 o'clock and I did not want to get out of bed. How do you get into the pool every single day? Is it indoors or heated?
Yes, they are indoor and they are heated. So
Okay.
sometimes outdoor, you do it.
In the
'cause
summer
of-
it's better
yeah.
outdoor, but in the
Yeah.
winter at the moment it's all indoor training.
Yeah.
So
Okay, well, while these girls brave the elements, we're going to play a little bit of Daft Punk. We're going to come back with a lot better questions than that one. You listen to BLOGZ on Ballz. Old dance classic here on BLOGZ on Ballz. Daft Punk from the original Homework album. I think I was doing homework back in those days. I was like late 90s, 97, 96, around there. Okay, so we've got Anka and we've got Kelsey here from the SA Women's Water Polo team. Now, girls, today we're doing a bit of a twofold sort of thing. We're firstly going to obviously get to know you guys a little bit better, and secondly, you're going to educate us on the game of water polo itself. So if you were to say, what is the basic gist of the game, and just bear in mind that Sean and I, we're not sporting heathens, but I think on behalf of our listeners, we don't know the ins and outs of the water polo match. So, if you could, in your best water polo sell, what is the game about?
Okay.
It involves a
Water
ball.
polo. Yes, involves ball.
Start with that
involves water. Definitely does not involve any horses. A lot
Okay.
of people think water polo.
Reassuring,
horses.
yeah.
And above water, not underwater. That's underwater hockey. We
Okay.
above the water. Pretty much 7 players in the water per team at a time. You only have 30 seconds to score a goal. Catch and pass the ball with one hand. Not allowed to touch the ball with
Well,
two.
hang on a second. 30 seconds to score a goal. So
Yes.
if you've got the
Like
ball,
basketball.
if you've got the ball for 30 seconds and you haven't scored a goal yet.
It changes possession. Yeah, other team gets the ball.
Okay, this is where I went wrong in the Olympics. Okay. Well, that's good. I'm really learning something. Carry on.
Like I said, you can only catch and pass the ball with one hand.
Mm-hmm.
Very physical. So if you're holding the ball as a player, defender can pretty much do whatever she'd like to get the ball from you. As soon as you
Right.
let go, obviously she has to let you go.
Okay, on that, now I will stop you little stages here and there to
Yeah.
ask questions, things that are buzzing in my mind. Is it true that then people grow their toenails and fingernails and get a bit nasty like that?
No.
Everyone always asks us that question. You get checked by the referees.
Good.
Your nails you get checked. Your toenails don't get checked.
And we don't cut them in little angles so that we
Angles or
can
like
cut
spikes.
people.
No,
Yeah,
that's not
it doesn't
true.
happen.
I know that must always seem like so much effort as well.
But you do still get scratched. Unfortunately, it is a very.
Well, I don't know,
contact
Sean. I mean, if I've got a ball and someone's coming at me like razor toes, I'm throwing that thing away.
We can't really see the toes underwater, but it's really.
Yeah, but if they're on you, like the second time round, you're going to throw it away.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
Cap number 7. Okay. Sorry, carry on.
So it's basically, like Anka said, you've got 7 people playing at a time. You'll have maximum amount of 14 players in a team that
Okay.
can sit on the bench, and you can sub as much as you like. You don't have to come on and stay off. So it's a mixture of soccer, I'd say, basketball with the 30 seconds each possession,
Rugby.
and rugby because
Wrestling.
of the physicality of it.
Okay, and you play in
Yeah.
chuckers, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so there is a bit of polo in there
Yeah.
to a degree. Which came first, polo with horses or polo with water polo?
I'm not sure because water polo was invented or started in Scotland, actually. So
I
I'm
never would have
not
thought
sure
that,
though
huh?
Of the history, polo with the horses started in.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I do know.
I'm going to
that
go
it
with
started in
horses because
Scotland.
horses have been ridden, I think, from day one. And
Probably,
you'd
yeah.
be right then.
but originally in Scotland. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all.
Yep.
Okay, well, the guys that couldn't play golf. Okay, so going through the age groups, obviously you guys played water polo at school.
Yes.
Okay, and then from there you went to provincial. How did it progress to get to the part now where you are in the SA team?
Yeah, it starts off a lot of water polo in schools here in South Africa, and then you get selected for your karting and your provincial
Yeah,
sides.
from under 13 level. It goes from under 13, 14, 15, 16, all the way up to senior level.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys have known each other the whole time as well.
Yes, and
competing against each other.
Yeah,
Okay.
different schools.
But
and
Anke, you've never been in the hole, so Kelsey's never guarded you.
No, luckily not. No, but
see
she
what I
does
did
shoot
there?
at
I'm
me.
learning.
So
I'm learning,
When
okay.
she's on the opposite team, she does shoot at me, which is just as scary. So
Okay, well, now that our appetites have been wet with the water polo knowledge that we now have, we're going to go to Sean, because Sean's got what we can learn from last week of Super Rugby. Girls, we are going to come back to you. We're going to just chop and change. But Sean's feature each week, basically, he watches everything that Super Rugby has to offer. Rather than just giving scores and who did this and who did that, he gives us insights. So we now take those insights, we give it to our listeners, and they can now tell their friends how much they know about rugby. So without further ado, Sean, what can we learn from week 12 of Super Rugby?
Yeah, let's just say I didn't exactly get a lot of sleep this weekend for a variety of reasons. Okay, well, there's always 5 points that I bring up of what we can learn. And the first one, we might as well get it out the way, and I could well go off on radio, so listeners, please bear with me. The point that I said at the start was, just when you thought it wasn't possible for the Stormers to climb further into their shell, they managed to do so.
Yeah, sadly so.
Out of all the Stormers' disappointments in the last couple of years, this for me was the biggest one. Do or die fixture, and we all knew that they were going to take a defensive approach to try to beat them. We know it would be them trying to out-squeeze them,
Yeah.
but the extent that they relied on their defensive structures, to me, was just absolutely baffling. It's already been proven that it's not going to be done to win this tournament, and I realized that we were going to try to stick to what we knew because we were desperate for a win.
Yeah.
But you have to, at some point, show some desire with ball in hand to do something.
Well, it's a key word there, Sean, desire. Now, I just don't think they desire the playoffs. They don't desire to please their fans, and they just don't desire to win rugby matches, because when you've had a start like they've had, you throw caution to the wind. You don't, as you say, go further into your shell. So, I mean, if I know that, and everyone else in the country knows that, how is it that the people who all wear Stormers tracksuits on the day of reckoning don't know that?
It's just worrying
It's
how
just
they've just
so
reverted
baffling.
to type, you know, because
Yeah.
they actually started the season with just looking like a little more progressive. and it just needed to be worked on, and then possibly could build into something more.
Well, we were
As
told,
the pressure went on,
they're going to be more progressive.
Yeah.
They've learned from their mistakes, and they're going to go forward.
I mean, even the week before against the Blues, where they had a sort of a plan to try to get forward ball. It was very simple. It involved getting it in the Blues center channel. You'll probably find some weak tackling, and Jean de Villiers or Jean de Jong will run through and set up space. Now, that's very simple, and it's not exactly imaginative, but at least it shows intent to try to move forward. Last week, I saw very little of that, and I just saw a performance that's already been proven with a style that's not going to get us anywhere. Now, you and I have said off air that it's probably in our interest to get knocked out of the tournament early this year, for all intents and purposes,
Yeah.
so that the guys can play with a bit with nothing to lose and see what they can achieve.
Completely. But when you're averaging 1.7 tries a match, I mean, like, everything points to the fact that these guys need to get a different sort of headspace. Everything needs to change. I mean, like, obviously don't throw everything out, but, you know, is this the extent of Alistair Coetzee's rugby knowledge, rugby capabilities?
I think it was Gary Lemke that said in the week that since Alistair Coetzee took over, and I don't want to make this like pointing fingers at the coaches,
of course, nothing personal at
just
all.
individually, you
Yeah.
know. But the bottom line is, since he took over in 2009 and we reached the final in 2010, the Stormers' performance has regressed every year, and I think the squad has got better every year. That's what kills me.
This is the worst thing of it, yeah.
Is that players are actually improving in their positions. I
Yeah.
think Kitshoff has improved, Frans Malherbe has improved.
Oh, the core's getting
Jean
stronger.
de Villiers is in better form than he was last year.
Yeah.
Joan de Jong looks just as dangerous, yet they can't express themselves. And to be honest, on Saturday, they looked like they were repulsed by their own possession.
Well, exactly. Jeez, and that is a worrying thing. Well said,
Okay.
Sean. So let's move on to the next
Yeah,
point.
let's please move
swiftly.
on right there.
Swiftly.
Because I need to lie down. The second point is South African teams completely imploding on tour is not just a thing of the past. Now, I'm sorry about the Sharks fan, but there's a lot about this Sharks tour that reminds me of, and we were going through the stats of some teams that finished bottom, reminds me of those old tours that happened in the late 90s and the early 2000s, where, like, specifically teams like the Bulls and the Cats would go on tour and just totally implode. Sharks, 3 games, 3 lost on tour. One loss was to the team bottom of the log, and the other 2, they looked like they were going to get a total hiding.
Yeah,
but
completely.
managed to claw it back, and they managed to get it together when they were on the brink of being totally humiliated. I think that's a fair comment. I really think it's a fair comment.
Yeah.
You got injuries. We've got bullshit stories of people being rife with provincialism. I just broke my swearing duck on the radio.
I don't want to say anything, but carry on, Sean, because I tell you what, there's a time and a place, and this is it. Between the Sharks and Stormers, there's a lot of frustration around nowadays.
Yeah. No, so anyway, similar story to the Stormers above, but for different reasons. It's now effectively the season over for the Sharks. They've got 5 games left. The
Yep.
Stormers have 6 games left. Let's just use it as a clean slate for both teams to try and work on the processes for next season.
Completely.
And that'll be the biggest positive we can get out of the both of them. Right.
Because I think a lot of TVs are going to get broken if they don't do that. I think people have had enough, actually, quite frankly, of seeing this crap.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, next point.
Extending on that logic a little bit, I found with the Cheetahs game on the weekend, looked to me as proof that the Cheetahs are finding it hard to play like there's nothing to lose when there's something to lose.
Very, very good point, that.
Because that's the reason that they got there in the first place. It's everyone's second team. Now that the Cheetahs have been in a position where they're in the playoffs, in a position to strike and do something in this tournament, it's probably one of the most quoted things in this country as a rugby fan outside of Bloemfontein saying, the Cheetahs have always been my second team. The style of play that they do, they've always been lovely. And the reason they could been able to do that is because they've just thrown caution to the wind in their lives and played some good rugby. Now they've got a decent team where they can strike, have got it into a position, but their tactics on Saturday just seemed like they were caught in between trying to be conservative and have a kicking game that went to the Hurricanes' favour, and running some of the running they did was kind of suicidal and breaking from very poor positions.
Yeah,
it just looked schizophrenic and it looked unsettled,
So
and not what got them there in the first place.
Exactly, it's a great point. And when were they looking so dangerous? When they had nothing to lose. When they were totally against it at the end, yeah.
So I say the approach of having nothing to lose got them there in the first place, and they should try to rekindle that spirit if they want to strike from this position. Because as we said earlier, we would say, Jesus, the Cheetahs would be happy if they finished the playoffs. From the position they were in last week on the log, and with the fixtures they have left, they should be disappointed if they don't make the playoffs.
Well,
Just to put more pressure on them so that they can play with something to lose.
Completely, Sean.
Now, the next point, bear with me, listeners. This is just I like to call a statgasm, and proves that I have absolutely no life.
Sean, we've got ladies in the studio today. Come on.
Okay. The New Zealand sides haven't performed nearly as well when they're at home at the smaller provincial venues than they have at the bigger venues.
Yeah, and no one wants to see them in the smaller venues. But I think I don't want to take away your point. Carry on.
No, but it's like, but it's an interesting point. We've stopped doing that in this country. A lot of it was complications with in terms of the rights being sold. How the major unions like Western Province own the rights, and it's to the Stormers, and it's hard to sell it off to Boerland and Southwestern districts to play in George, etc. I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of the boardroom politics of it, but you folks gather my drift. But they don't do this in New Zealand. They play in places like Pukekohe and Invercargill and Mount Maunganui. And
have you noticed how all these places always just like commentators curse? Like, who wants to even commentate when you got to say things like Pikanui? What's it?
Mount Maunganui.
Jeez, so we thought Mangwang was quite
interesting. They did not shoot Lord of the Rings there. Basically, for a point, for those interested in this kind of thing, 4 of the New Zealand teams, the Chiefs, the Blues, the Hurricanes, and the Highlanders, all, if you take the average of points scored in a match, they all average much more in their traditional venues than the other venues. For the Chiefs, it's as much as 10 points more.
Yeah, I found these stats quite alarming, like how little they actually score.
Yeah, the Chiefs average scoring 32 points in Hamilton, and they average scoring 22 in the smaller venues. The Blues average scoring 27 in Auckland and 17 in other venues. That's 10 points. That's a massive difference if you look at it. And oddly enough, if you think, well, that's just the same case every year, last year the situation was reversed. The teams playing in the smaller venues actually averaged more than when they were playing in the bigger venues. So it's some anomaly about this year. Anyway, the only point around that is, folks, if you're thinking of looking at trying to guess New Zealand prospects further on in the competition, and you're looking at games that they performed in and how it will affect them in the future, just ignore the games that happened in the smaller venues, because it's not going to affect your Super Brews and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are back in Hamilton this week, I think. No, sorry, they're back in Wellington this week. But anyway, the point being, when the teams are back at their bigger venues, you'll see much more free-flowing rugby, where it's less. I think the point being that there's a lot of the season change has happened in South Africa as well as New Zealand, of course. You can see it getting a lot colder, a lot rainier. And those smaller stadiums are exposed to the elements more. So a lot of running rugby is stunted by that kind of thing.
Well, also crosswinds like gale force. I mean, you saw when Minnie Percy was playing against the Hurricanes.
Yeah, it was windy in Palmerston North, and it clearly goes through the whole stadium. Yeah. And it looked like, and I say the word stadium loosely compared to some of these things as well. I've
demarcated rugby field, yeah. Okay, Sean, next point.
Next point, and the final point, just to make us all happy, because there was a lot of negativity in the front there. The King's situation has changed from embarrassing situation. Sorry, let me rephrase that. The King's situation has changed from embarrassing South African rugby to saving it from embarrassment. Isn't that
Sean,
nice?
You have a turn of phrase on you, huh?
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, well said, huh?
We touched on it earlier, but the idea being that, well, who would have thought that we'd go through a weekend where the only South African win would be the King's win? I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, and good for them. So if you want to read more about these columns that Sean writes, if you go into the Ballz.co.za, I currently host the Monday version of this. So all the points are there. Every Monday you can read Sean's take on Super Rugby. He does watch them. He always says that he doesn't have a life, but I think he's just making fun. He watches the games and he can see sport like we can't. I often think he's like Neo from The Matrix. He sees things that we can never do. Girls, we're going to come back to you. We're first going to play a song, though. I looked all over for the Bruno Mars you wanted. The one you wanted, I could not find. But will this do? Okay, listen to BLOGZ on Ballz. We're going to come back with some more from the SA Water Polo girls. And then we've got Keegan Kruger as well with our football. Barry with golf. And then we've got a special guest in the last hour. Bruno Mars for our studio guest today. Okay, if you've just joined us, we are talking to you, Anka and Kelsey, from the SA Women's Water Polo team. They have qualified for the World Championships in July in Barcelona. Now, girls, obviously there's some limitations to your sport. We're just talking off air where the makeup of the South African team is. Where are most of the girls based?
Water polo is very prominent in the coastal regions. So Western Province is really, really good at their water polo and dominates a lot of schools' water polo and provincial water polo. So a lot of it comes from Western Province. But Gauteng, I'd say, are second best.
So when do you girls actually all get together and practice as a team? Does that ever happen?
Yeah, every now and then, once a month or so, we At the moment, we have training camps, one in Durban, one in Cape Town, one in Joburg, all over the place. We've got one coming up at the end of this month, 24th to 26th in Durban.
Okay.
So we all get together there, and then we have a training with the coach and so on.
So what are the rest of the girls like? Are the coastal girls a little bit bitchier than the sort of Highveld girls?
No, not at all.
Right.
They're a bit different. I mean, Cape Town is different from Gauteng, but we've all played polo for such a long time together, so it's a very close-knit community, so we get along pretty good. Everybody.
Okay. So you guys are in the SA national team, right? So now, who do you guys actually compete against? Because I'm thinking water polo, and I'm thinking about my limited knowledge of the Olympics and watching the sport without toenails and fingernails, which I've now learned. Like, when do you guys ever get to compete on an international level?
Well, the FINA World Champs come up every second year, which we are very fortunate enough to go to, and we get split into pools. Obviously, that's just the competition's rules, and so this year we are up against China, Australia and New Zealand in our pool games, and then we'll play off after that, which are very strong teams.
Yeah. That'll be my next question is, who are the particularly strong teams? Because whenever I watch the Olympics again, it's those Eastern European people. Are the girls just as mean and menacing?
Well, at the moment, number one
That's
is...
a yes.
Yes. Number one is USA.
Yes.
But Australia are up there in the top 3 as well as Spain.
Spain, yeah.
Okay. So realistically, now you guys are going to go to the World Champs here. Like you just said, very, very strong pools. Where do you guys basically fit in the world of water polo? If you give me like a loose sort of standing. It's like Sean and I are probably bottom 10% of SA radio.
We are ranked number 14 after the last World Champs, which was in Shanghai 2 years ago.
Okay.
So we're ranked number 14th, but it's a bit varying because you don't get a lot of water polo exposure as South African water polo, but that was our last ranking.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know where it would stand right now.
Yeah. We also, we don't get to play high-level water polo often because we're the only country in Africa that actually plays water polo at that level. So the only time we do play is once a year, once every 2 years. So it's very hard for us to actually compete against the higher teams. Right,
and if we were to say watch water polo in the country, now again, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here in any sort of way, but what's like the sort of benefit as far as why would a spectator come and watch water polo? I mean, do you guys have local things that people can watch? How do you develop a bit of a following, basically?
Well, there's in each province. I know in Gauteng we have a club league that goes on. In the winter right now, it's just winter league, which is very social. But in the summer, you've got your league games that'll happen every Thursday or Saturday.
Yeah.
But I think if you're in the water polo community, you know about it. It's not really broadcasted anywhere or known. And then we have Curry Cup once a year, just like every other, like the major sports.
You guys have a Curry Cup?
We do.
Yes.
We had
Everything's got a Curry
Cup.
Cup.
April, and the Gauteng team won, which was really good. We haven't won in about 6 years.
Then do you guys have like a female equivalent of Nice Water then in teams?
Maybe, I don't know.
Trying to find the similarities here. Okay, so you do have quite a comprehensive sort of local league and structure as far as if people were to go and watch water polo, if they did develop a liking for it. It's just right now the international levels where you guys don't quite have the opportunities and obviously the ability to grow as players.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, this is all developing my brain. We are going to hold on to you there as we give Keegan Kruger a call. Now, Keegan, I don't think he plays water polo. I think he did synchronized swimming as a youngster, and then apparently he just wasn't tall enough. You guys ever tried that, synchronized swimming?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
It's very difficult. You have to have the strongest legs.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that.
And also look graceful.
And always smile. Always smile.
Yes.
Sorry, Keegan, we're talking about makeup, smiling, and mascara underwater. How are you doing?
I'm very well, and yourself, Ben.
Okay, very good. Mass, what's the problem here? All good? What's that? Sorry, I'm just getting some technical advice here. Keegan, how's it? Good to have you back. Sorry about the week break. How's it going?
Brilliant, yeah. Can't complain. World of football's been busy, as we all know.
Busy, but winding down as well as we go into the summer breaks overseas.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be winding down because if you see the state of the transfer news going around, it's quite chaos.
Keegan, when is there a lull where I can recharge?
A lull?
Yeah.
This is just when it starts for me. When the season ends. It's the managerial merry-go-round for a start is amazing.
It never ends, football. It always just one continuous roller coaster ride.
So you guys don't believe in the too much of a good thing analogy then?
Never.
Okay, well, Keegan, obviously the big story is Sir Alex Ferguson has now gone. He had a big parade yesterday. I suppose there'll be so many questions around what's happening here, but the big one is, what do you think David Moyes is going to do? And obviously, the huge pressure around him. I know, like, we'll talk about this obviously a lot more going into August. August 18 is the kickoff of the new season, right?
That's correct.
Nailed it. So we'll go a bit more in depth
that. I didn't know that.
I've got an idea for something I want to use around that. Different.
You've done some researching.
So Keegan,
I feel ashamed on here now.
if you were David Moyes right now, what do the next couple of months really entail? I mean, obviously he's not going to go on summer holiday now. The job starts now, so to speak.
Yeah, he's got quite a bit of pressure on him. But yet, I think he's quite a well-rounded manager if you think about it. I don't think he would shake things up too much, especially with a few months that he has to get to know his surroundings and the squad. I was actually thinking about this before I came on air. I knew the question was going to come. What do you think? How do we think Moyes is going to fit into this role? And to be honest with you, the club's always been built on sort of a good platform, and stability has always been part of it. And he brings a lot to that. He brings a lot to the party. We're not a United's not a quick fix club. It'd be great to bring a guy like Jose in and win for 2-3 years, and then he'll pack his bags and go again. But yeah, I think he'll get to know his surroundings. I think he'll try and get to know the players as well as he can over the next 3 or 4 months. And
would that also involve getting to know if when Rooney's coming or going?
Yeah, I think he's gone, to be honest with you.
Surely he has to be
He
gone.
doesn't look like a man who really wants to be there. If you looked at the celebrations in the parade last night, he was very much in the background and things like that.
Look, I don't think those guys have any right to booing him. I mean, he scored enough goals for that club.
No, but it's also I think the fans felt the frustration because the second time around, he seems to have a problem with everyone. I mean, first there's a problem, him and Fergie's having a rift. Then it comes out in the newspaper, no, him and Moyes don't see eye to eye anymore. So who is his problem actually with? That's what I want to ask.
I'm going to go with his upbringing, personally.
Yeah, from the wrong side, from the mob across the street, as Alex called it last night.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be it's going to be interesting. I'm quite excited to see what Moyes can bring. I'm excited to see who he can actually attract to the club.
Well, personally, I want to see Rooney go to France. Can you imagine him trying to actually be French? Or
it would be brilliant.
Stop that! I want to see Rooney go to Manchester City. I want this to kick off properly.
There will be, yeah, that's going to be interesting. The club, unfortunately, Rooney's trying to do the RVP thing, and RVP sort of had before his contract was up, so he could have walked out the front door for free. Rooney has, I think, 2 years on his contract still, so it's the club's decision where he goes. He doesn't get to make that decision.
Right, because these guys need to make more money. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, shame, the poor guy. That's the thing. I'm sorry, but it's just loyalty just gets out the window with stories like Rooney. It's just hard to see the guy as a loyal man. It's the second time he's held Man United to ransom. I just imagine him and his agent going to big clubs everywhere, just saying like, right, okay, I'll sign for £300,000 a week.
No,
for £350,000, I'll kiss your badge when I score.
No, I see his agent going up to Wayne saying, "Here, Wayne, play Angry Birds," and he's like, "Oh, cool." And then the agent goes and basically wins big money. I don't think Wayne's got a single say in this. If Kathy's or whatever is Colleen, his orange girlfriend wife, isn't pulling the strings, Wayne sits there. I tell you what, he's playing FIFA.
If you just
you can meet up for a few good old drinks out in the pub.
Yeah.
That'll be a good night.
Well, look, guys, we got lots to talk about in this. It's a relegation battle looking.
Wide open still, I feel.
Still wide open.
But I think it's wide open, yet a bit, I think we can sort of see where it's all going. Leopards have a game in hand, but their game in hand is against Orlando Pirates, which should keep them into the bottom of the table. Chipper is now sitting 3 points behind Ajax, and they're in the playoff place, so it looks like if Ajax get a positive result against Arrows on Saturday, they will be safe in the PSL. Chipper will go into the playoff places, and to be honest with you, with the amount of money they have throwing around at managers, I'm sure they can give each player extra 15,000 rand or 20 grand to go win a game.
Yeah, also true. Speaking about managers, though, Keegan, Roberto Mancini's been given the chop. Now, was this harsh? Considering that he took a team, he managed to get a title out of it, but then again, has he not done enough with all the millions and billions?
Oh, that's always a tough one, eh? I agree, or I've read quite a bit, and I've been listening to people saying things. You know, he has won things with this squad, which other managers probably couldn't do. If you look at City about 5 years ago, I mean, they weren't where they are now. Yes, they didn't have the money, but he still managed to pick up his first year. Was it a FA Cup? He's got a League Cup. But I think the problem with Mancini is he's lost the backing of, I think, of some of the players in that squad. And
Sure.
if you watch that FA Cup final, there was just no fight for him. Those players just looked like they couldn't give a stuff really if they were winning or losing at one stage. And I think that's where the club sort of jumped on and said, you know, I think his time has come now. It's difficult to coach or to manage a bunch of high-paid superstars like they have. I mean, I'd say half of those players don't deserve half of those wages, or don't deserve half of the transfer, what they've been paid for in the transfer market. But you know, you got to keep them happy somehow. And I don't think he's the man who. I think he's lost that bit of it.
Well, this is one thing about the FA Cup, is that I read that you get 1.8 million pounds. The club gets 1.8 million pounds if you win the thing. That's the prize money.
Yeah,
Yaya Toure earns that in 2 months.
that's it.
Just to put
That
this
is
in
it.
like some kind of perspective here, it's just like to fight for people on the FA Cup is a different level when you got players who, let's face it, like sure they're playing for their employers and their owners, there's some pride in the club, but there has to be a lot of money involved to psych people up. That's why they're there in the first place.
Yeah, it's you know, I love that Wigan won the trophy, and I think it brought that little bit of magic back to the FA Cup again, having one of the smaller sides win it. I just if you just look at that backroom staff, I don't know if you looked at some of the videos of David Platt. I think it's David Platt, assistant coach.
Yeah.
It just everyone just seems to be. There seems to be such a big division, even in the coaching staff, which is quite weird, and something's not right there. And, you know, unfortunately, who controls all of it? It's the manager. So it's everything falls on his head at the end of the day. If the team isn't playing, Platt came out to say they lost the game before they even walked onto the pitch, with all the Mancini rumors going around that he's going to get sacked. So it's an interesting time. It'll be interesting to see who does go across. I see there's some serious names being thrown at that. A lot of people saying, could they give Jose an open checkbook?
That's
Could they
what I
give
want.
Rafa an open checkbook? So yeah, I mean, there could be interesting times at Man City too.
I don't know
No.
if you're a Man City fan and you're listening, which is probably rare because there are not many around. in
I don't
this
think they
country.
exist in South Africa.
But if don't
Of course they do.
get too attached to the new manager.
Just
Don't do it.
Of course they do. Just wait until Chelsea does bad. You'll find lots of them. Guys, Keegan, I'm sorry. We really do have a packed show today, so I can't go much further than that. But just tying back to my original theory about the Premiership, it is a big soap opera. And I think that there should be, like, I would love to know, maybe there's like an Illuminati kind of thing happening in the background, that the Premiership needs a guy like Jose to come back, because he's like that character, right? He's like that, he's the bad guy. He's like the pool guy that came good. And now he comes back to, like, you know, cause a bit of a rift amongst the sort of established stars. Your take on that? I mean, this is what makes the Premiership such a big league, right?
Yeah, it's all about the personalities. I think
Completely.
the Premiership has missed Jose as a personality. We could see another personality coming back to the Premiership. With Crystal Palace boss Ian Holloway. He's one manager who says it as it is and as he sees things. So yeah, I do agree with you. I do think that the EPL is a bit of a soap drama, and the Premiership fans, they're used to it. And that's what they want. They want to see
Yeah.
the Joses. They want to see the Joey Bartons and those players too. So may it long continue.
All right, Keegan, well, as always, thanks so much for your time. Seeing as we are talking about managers, got a Queen song in the background. But catch Keegan at Keegan Kruger on the Twitter and the pundits.co.za. Keegan will catch you back next week.
Thanks, lads.
Yeah, we've still got some golf coming back right after this one. Moving to the second hour of the show, listen to Blogs on Balls every Tuesday at 10 until 12. Again, no Sport Billy this week, sadly. He will be back with us the next couple of weeks. So there's no Icon of the Week, and of course there's no Sport Willie of the Week. We do, however, have two other guests coming in. Of course, we've still got the girls with us. Girls, just touching on going to the World Champs again in July, the FINA World Champs. What is it like as far as, do you get to hang out with the rest of the swimmers, the divers, all that kind of stuff? Is it kind of like your Olympics, essentially?
Yes, you get to travel with the whole South African aquatics team, which is really, really cool. Eat with them, dine with them. We're all in the same hotel, stay as a country, along with other countries. But you do travel and tour to the tournament as South African aquatics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So obviously you guys have the exact same sort of funding issues that, say, the swimmers do. You know, it's one thing being Chad Leclos or Roland Skuman or Cameron van der Berg, but you guys obviously have to then, you know, pave your own way, so to speak, to get to these things.
Yes. Yeah, we do.
Do you guys
for everything?
Do you guys have like special fundraisers that you do? How do you go about these kind of things? Because obviously you're looking at what, like, if you were to take a ballpark figure,
probably around 30,000.
Okay, so we're looking at a good holiday, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we have to do our own fundraising. So at the moment, I'm doing my own fundraising. I think we all do our own personal things. And then also you have to, we try approach corporates and things like that, but it's very hard because we are non-professional sports and not a very well-known sport. So
exactly.
Compared to swimming as well. There's like a divide between water polo and swimming in terms of that.
Okay, well, we'll touch on that again. Definitely going to feature you girls more on the bounce. I think, look, we all need to know about all the sports in this country. Obviously, we watch the rugby, the cricket, and the golf, whatever's on Super Sport and those kind of channels. Yeah. But it's nice to know that there are other sports going there because sport is such an integral part of this country. So just because it's a different sport doesn't make it a lesser sport, so to speak. You might have lesser audiences, but I think discrimination on that front shouldn't really happen. We are going to go on to what many people call a lesser sport, and that's golf, although it's a primary for me. On the line, we're about to have the next voice you'll hear will be Barry Harvengard from Golf Digest.
Oh, the dulcet tones of Barry.
Barry is a Tiger fan. Well, not really. Just that I'm very anti-Tiger. I'm not a big fan. Barry, can you hear us? Hello?
Hi, I'm here.
Yes, Barry. Hi. How's it going?
Good, you?
Yes, very good. Thanks. Barry, obviously, the big tournament over the weekend, the Players' Championships. Tiger won the Players. What do you make of that?
Yeah, let's just clarify something, Ben. Journalists don't have fans, or aren't fans. I heard that. I think you cut to me just in time.
Well, I said not really. It was more that I was anti. But now, Barry, obviously this means a big deal because, you know, people were saying that Tiger wouldn't be as good as he could be coming back from all the sort of extramarital and swing changes and coach changes and private ops missions and knee injuries. But do you think this is this is sort of like a tipping point towards bigger things now? Is it fair to say it is?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, he's won 4 times this year already. The quickest he's actually got to 4 wins in a year in his career.
Right.
But the big thing with Tiger for me is putting. You know, I think he's the greatest putter that's ever lived. If you look at him, you know, when he came on tour, he was people talk about his length and how he overpowered golf courses. But if you look at him in history and how he has made the clutch putts when it's counted, I mean, he's #1 in putting this year on the tour. And there's a famous line by a veteran golf writer named Dan Jenkins, who always said when a professional golfer's mind is elsewhere, it's evident in his putting stroke.
Right.
And I think Tiger is just in a really good place right now. His new girlfriend, the skier Lindsey Vonn, was at Sawgrass on the weekend, and she was following him around. So, that relationship is now in the open, and I just think he's, as I say, he's at peace with himself, and win number 78. He's 37 years old.
Well, Barry, interesting you say that when his mind was elsewhere, because personally I think confidence comes into the putting. Obviously, when Tiger was banging sluts, he was sinking putts. It's a saying that's very sort of, well used on the PGA Tour. You think now, if he's more settled, and obviously, as you just mentioned, Lindsey Vonn, that confidence now with the wins, meaning that's basically favourite for the US Open?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, when we spoke before the Masters,
yes,
I said that I'd actually tipped him for the US Open and not the Masters.
Right.
I just feel that Merion is a good setup for him. He doesn't have to hit driver as much there, which is still the slight concern for him.
Mm.
It's a shot maker's golf course, and the putting is the big key. So certainly but we must also remember he plays Memorial before going to Merion, where he's also won probably 5-6 times.
Right.
So in a very good place right now. But yeah, just talking, going back to the players, it was like Christmas coming early for the media. We had so many storylines going on. The start of the week, Vijay Singh lawsuits against the PGA Tour about
that's a story in itself.
How he handled how they handled the drug mess. Tiger and Sergio spat, and then a kind of an unknown Swede leading going into the final round.
Well, that, and there's also a guy called Castro leading up to the first round.
Yeah, exactly. Catastrophic. But I think the Players Championship is the PGA Tour not a lot of people know this, but the PGA Tour don't actually have a major of their own. So that's why they market it as the 5th major, because the RNA own the Open Championship, the Masters are unto their own, and the PGA of America obviously have the PGA. So PGA Tour go out of their way to make this a really strong field, and the 17th hole is just I had some arguments with people on Twitter last week saying they say it's a gimmicky hole and shouldn't be used in golf, and I totally disagree. You've got 15,000 people around that green, millions watching around the world, and modern technology with camera angles and whatnot. I think it's a superb advertisement for golf and a great marketing tool. So it's a really good week, and it shows who's coming into form now for the major season. You've got 3 majors in the next 3 months.
Mm. Well, Barry, we have to move on to something that has been spoken about hugely after Tiger's win, and of course is that drop. Now, we spoke about this yesterday, and I was pulling your chain a little bit, as I do from time to time. But now I've got a theory, and I know you're going to base me down on this theory, that there's different rules for Tiger.
Is it from atop a grassy knoll?
Look, I've just got a theory that Tiger has different rules, okay? So in the Masters, there was that drop about him not taking the drop from the same place, and he got a 2-shot penalty, where other people could have been disqualified. There was talk of that. Then there was talk of, now that, I watched that, and as you said, you can't see where that ball crossed. I disagree. I think that ball went straight over the water where he hit it on TPC, I think 14.
Yep.
But somehow he got this miraculous drop all the way up in the rough. It was a difference of about 200 meters, I think, and that could have been really, really huge. So, do you think that the Tiger factor plays into this kind of stuff?
No, not when the rules come into effect. I think at the Masters, the Masters, the Masters Committee were within their rights to not disqualify them. They can waiver that disqualification rule. I think Fred Ridley from the Masters did make an error, and the Masters Committee themselves were to blame there. I think we're just entering a really kind of grey area where we are now calling things from watching them on TV from blimps. Whereas, Tiger, his playing partner Casey Wittenberg, and the roving reporter for NBC was also consulted, Mark Rolfing. So we now, we're going from what we see from the blimps and camera angles to the 3 guys that were actually there that saw it live. And Casey Wittenberg is a young guy. He would have been asked by Tiger where he thought the ball crossed the line, crossed the hazard markers. I just feel that maybe Tiger is obviously he has this intimidatory factor. Yeah. But Casey Wittenberg, he doesn't have to say yes and bow down to him. He can disagree with him and say, in fact, Tiger, I think it's further back, or you need to actually play 3 off the tee. And there's always a rules official that the players can call as well to have if Wittenberg wasn't sure, he could discuss it with a rules official. So I'm not saying that I'm 100% sure that the drop was correct, but we're going against 3 guys that were there compared to we've just seen shots of it on TV, and as not everything's in 3D yet, so we can't be 100% sure from TV where that ball crossed, or if it did or didn't cross the hazard line.
I don't know about that, Barry. I mean, these guys are so in tune with their golf swing. They're so in tune with what happens to the ball. You can take any of them out there, okay, and you can make a PJ Tour ad about it, one of those, damn, these guys are good things. These guys hit the ball in the dark. I'm pretty much sure they know if that ball's gone right or left. That ball crossed the hazard at the earliest possible point. Yes, hindsight with the blimp and all that kind of stuff, but that was just so blatant for me. Like, it really was. And it was fat, it was high, there was no hook.
Bring in Hawkeye, bring in DRS, I say.
Then we've got to look at Casey Wittenberg here, because he's the one. He's the marker. He's the one that made that call. You know, he said, well, he's happy where Tiger is taking that drop.
Yeah.
So he must be put under scrutiny for that. You know, Tiger. You know, the pros know the rules, and they take advantage.
Yeah.
No, well, I think they take advantage of knowing the rules sometimes, because it can work into their favor. But my whole line here is that three guys were right there, and you know, only one of them benefiting from that drop. The reporter, who can have no outcome on it, he was the roving reporter, the TV guy. He was consulted on it, and I think him and Wittenberg agreed that that's where you know, he could drop.
Look, Barry, all I'm saying is I think there's star quality. I mean, if I played golf that Arnold gets tomorrow and he hit the same shot Tiger did, I'd also say to him, no, sure, Arnie, go drop by the bunker. No problem.
Yeah. How many majors has Arnie won?
Enough for me. Every time he goes on screen, it's a major for me, Barry.
I'm sure Arnie will tell you it's a game of 18 holes.
We don't really have time for Sergio, because the world doesn't have time for Sergio.
Damn.
What would you like to say, Barry? We'll give you another minute.
No, just very quickly, you know, Sergio is really, and I will say this because, you know, I give him a bit of stick on Twitter and whatnot, but it was very refreshing to hear his pre-round comments about Tiger when they asked him, you know, because they could have been paired together because they were all tied for the lead, but he didn't. You know, he very honestly said, look, I think it's best that we don't play together. We're not paired together in the final round because we don't enjoy each other's company. And I think that's just really, you know, a nice, honest, you know, point to bring across. But you know, he also is his own worst enemy. He's really a Jekyll and Hyde personality. I mean, you know, he goes back to blaming at Carnoustie in 2007 when he needed a 4 to win the Open and he made drop. He blamed the group up ahead, the caddy, for taking too long to rake the bunker. You know, he spat in a hole, so you can Google that as well, once on the PGA Tour. And then last year at the Masters, when he said to reporters, you know, he just said, I'm not good enough to win majors. Now, I think the last thing you want to do is, you know, sell yourself short like that and come out with that in public. And so the next time he gets into contention in major, or even like now in the Players, he falters at the end, and that just kind of like self-depreciation is very strange to see from a top sportsman.
Well, it is, but I suppose Greg Norman's daughter knows all about that with his in that regard. Barry, new issue of Golf Digest. When does it go out on the shelves?
Yeah, we come out next week, and obviously US Open.
Yeah, big US Open emphasis
this month with. Yeah, and very cool storylines, because it's returning to a club in Philadelphia called Merion that's got a lot of history, but the US Open hasn't been there since '81.
Wow!
So you know, it's in the magazine industry. You always look forward to going to a new a relatively unused golf course, because you revisit history. Ben Hogan, it's where he won in 1950 when he came back from a car accident. So you know, there's some nice historical stories for the US Open.
Cool, Barry. Thanks so much. Barry is the assistant editor of Golf Digest magazine. Catch the new edition coming out next week. Of course, the US Open is the big thing coming up, but we'll preview that sufficiently with Barry in the given time. Barry, thanks so much for joining us. We'll chat to you in a few weeks' time.
Sure thing. Great
stuff. And to play out with Barry, so we like to try theme on music here, ladies. It doesn't happen a hell of a lot, but every now and again, timing is a good thing. Steel Panther now, just like Tiger Woods. So, Sean, we've got to speak about it. It has to be spoken about. Gary Kirsten, no longer the coach of the Proteas as of August.
Yeah, so he'll do the Champions Trophy and then it's all done. So.
Now, Russell Domingo, many expected him to be the successor when Gary did eventually bow out. He is now the successor to the role. Will he be taking all three formats? The hit and giggle, the one days, and the test?
As I understand, yeah, that he will take all three. Because, of course, for now he was technically just in charge of the hit and giggle stuff.
Right,
which is
exactly.
officially what we're going to call it from now on.
Yes,
Yeah.
it should be changed to Hidden Giggle. Pro Hidden Giggle if you really want.
Yeah. No, but all three. So I'm assuming Alan Donald will stay on, and maybe they'll just bring in another batting coach if necessary. So yeah, I think we should just applaud how quickly the decision was made.
Yeah, and I really hate the fact that then people come out, and there's some real tripe out there with these people who are just speculating, saying that CSA is in panic because of the quick turnaround. I think, give them credit where credit's due. These guys always get so much stick, often rightly so. That's what you call foresight. That's planning.
Gary Kirsten, yeah, look, and Gary Kirsten had a 2-year contract with the option to renew after 2 years.
Yeah.
It came to the time where we offered him to renew, if he wanted to renew his contract again. He said no. So, like, we've accused Cricket South Africa of many things in the boardroom, but to not expect that Gary Kirsten might say no to this is just, that's just not on, really.
Well, exactly. But, it was a 2-year contract, so people say this has come out of the blue. But then again, Gary didn't ever say this was going to be his long-term thing. He had a role, he had a mission. I think he succeeded. A lot of people then would have thought, well, what about the World Cup? Was Gary our shining light to take us and eventually get a World Cup trophy? This is the thing now. Did Gary bow out because he wanted to leave on high?
I think people might speculate as well, because our one-day results haven't been fantastic with him as well.
No.
Like, it's been proactive to try to sort out our one-day team. Like, I'll give the regime that. Like, they've tried many different things. Haven't just tried to sit on old formulas and hope it'll come right. So, but honestly, I just really think it's a man he was the coach of India before this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think our international cricket schedule is bad, just think about India's for a second.
Yeah.
6 years on the international circuit.
Gary's
Young
been working
family.
hard. Young family. Look, I totally applaud his decision, and I think he's made more than enough money to have to worry about these kind of things now, so good for him.
And
But
the
now,
Proteas job isn't going anywhere. He could well not be finished with Gary Kirsten coaching the Proteas in the future.
as long as Mickey Arthur doesn't come back, I am happy. But now, speaking of Mickey Arthur, there is doubts of Russell Domingo's sort of stature towards this role. What's your take on that? He did so well with the Warriors, after all.
I think he's done well with the Warriors, and I think you got to look at him that he did well as an assistant coach in this setup. So, in terms of the CV line, I don't think why you really need to look further. If we're looking locally, if we're working under the premise that we can only look at local coaches, which I think we are, I think the only real name that could get close to it is Vinnie Barnes.
Exactly.
But
Also been
that's-
in the system, yeah.
But that becomes complicated politically when you look at keeping on Alan Donald, because he was
Yeah.
banging on the door so long for it. So, I mean, if we want to sit on the outside and go, you can understand Russell Domingo leading Vinnie Barnes totally. Some guys threw out Jeffrey Toyana and Paul Adams, which I think is not much short of mad at this stage. The guys have just had one season
Looking
of
for
doing
stories,
well.
yeah.
This is the Proteas job, This is supposed to be the pinnacle of coaching. These guys could well do it in the future, but show me after quite a few seasons of doing it at the top.
Yeah, well, exactly. Girls, we're going to bring you back in here, not because we want you to talk about cricket. What's your take on cricket anyway?
I like it. I really enjoy it. And when I've travelled because of water polo, especially to the States, a lot of people don't know about it, and I don't know why, because it's such a great sport. I really do like it. So
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask you. So you girls, obviously, water polo is your be all end all. What do you guys have day jobs? Like, how do you get around sort of day-to-day stuff?
I'm a teacher.
You're a
I actually
teacher?
teach, yeah.
Okay, what do you
I'm a
teach?
phys ed teacher for little kids, grade 0 to grade 7.
Very good, very
Yes.
good. Kelsey, what?
I graduated from Arizona State University last year with a communications degree. So at the moment, I'm just playing water polo and trying to figure out if I'm going to go play internationally again
Okay, so how long were you in the States for?
for 4 years.
4 years.
Yes.
And was the partying just like the movies?
Yes, it definitely was. Red cups, beer pong and all. But it's still the college sport there is so professional that you do still feel like a college student, but you still have to obviously be as professional as you can as a sportswoman.
Yeah, that must be quite tough with cake parties and waking
Yes.
up. Yeah.
Yes.
So I've often thought, like, one of the coolest things you can do as a rising sports star in this country is to go and do the whole American college system.
Yeah.
Is it something like, where does water polo stack up against the sports there that you had? Like in the American college system?
In terms of water polo,
Yeah.
we are very, very, very far behind here in South Africa. The college competition there is just as good as our international level, I would
Right,
say.
because you said the American girl is pretty much the strongest.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
the top team
Definitely.
in the world right now.
Yeah.
But the college, they have about 5 divisions in America to play, and it's so competitive and so professional, and you train just like a professional team and compete just like a professional team. So it's far, far, far ahead of where we are right now.
Right, so just to touch on your training there, just in case Sean and I want to become more water polo savvy. as far as physique's concerned. How much swimming do you guys actually do? As far as, obviously, fitness is a big deal. You know, you're treading water, you're going back and forth.
Yeah.
There is that one position that swims for the ball, right? What's that person called?
That'd either be your wing or your sprinter, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It can be anyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even your goalkeeper, I've done it.
So whoever can swim the fastest. So
Yes,
it's a
yes,
straight drag race,
yes.
essentially. Okay, so obviously you guys swimming lots of blends. What sort of gym work are you guys doing?
A lot of lifting. The big phase right now is CrossFit.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Which is a lot of like, you can do a lot of body weight stuff, which is good, but it's a lot of reps. And you need to have really, really strong legs.
Yeah.
So squatting, and you do lifting for your power work and your shots. Your core, in fact, is also very, very important, especially when you're shooting and your movement in the water. So, your gymming it's not too heavy with weights and all, but a lot of like circuits and CrossFit stuff.
Okay, because look, I'm trying to think of like fundraising things here. If you girls could maybe adapt your own sort of Sweat 1000 into the pool kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you can take functional water polo exercises and then try to get people into the pool.
Definitely.
Sean and I will go for that. We will actually be your first clients.
Yay.
Yeah, see you in the
Great.
morning at the pool, first thing.
Yeah.
Can you
as
tread water? Yeah.
We can drink it, but I'm not entirely sure about treading it. So, just getting back to your sort of big rivals, you say you don't really have much international exposure. What would be like the sort of marquee game for you guys? What's the one that you would, if you were to train and really want to win, what is it? Is it beating America, or is there there's another team that has more of appeal?
Well, more of our level of water polo would be Southern America.
Yeah.
So you've got your teams like Cuba and Puerto Rico and Brazil,
Brazil,
which are more our level, and we can compete against them. So that would be for right now, a seeable goal.
Yeah.
But in terms of getting to there to compete against them, I don't know. It's just difficult for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, girls, we're going to take another song. Always found the most ironic part of that song is him saying, "I don't have a gun." Kurt Cobain, Nirvana.
Not hear a word against Kurt.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that either. So Keegan Daniel, earlier we spoke about the whole allegations of the too many Afrikaners in the Sharks camp. There's pretty loose journalism at the best of it. Keegan sent out a tweet earlier about him with the Afrikaans members of his team saying he's having an Afrikaans lesson. You just have to go onto Twitter and see how people are tearing him apart. Some people obviously see the joke and some people obviously have the humor, but yeah, not a lot.
Oh, yeah,
So-
it's a fun day, people. Just search the Keegan Daniel mentions. You'll have a lot of fun.
It's nice to see a sportsman with a personality, though. A little bit of sense of humor.
Yeah, look, I mean, we whine about it all the time that we want people to just open up and like take it on the chin. And it's, it's a silly story and he did it. Good luck to him.
Yeah, so completely rare. Girls, we're going to have to wrap it up from your side today. Thanks so much for coming to studio. You are our first guest, so if
cool.
nothing else happens in your lives, you always can say we were the first ever guest on BLOGZ and Ballz. We have no idea where this show is going, but
Yay.
it gives Sean and I great pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for
And-
having us.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you so much.
We have some tweets every now and again saying you guys do a decent job.
Thank
So, where can we find you on the Twitter if we want to
Um,
kind of support your paths to
yeah.
greatness?
You can follow my journey on at Waterbokkie
Waterpokkie in.
Yes.
Nice Afrikaans word for our
Class.
show today. Yeah, got it all. I told you it's going to be a good one.
And mine is Polo KW12.
Polo KW12. Okay,
Yeah.
and is there a website if we can find a bit more about SA Water Polo for the ladies?
It will be the Swim South Africa,
Yeah.
Swimming South Africa.
Okay, swimming South Africa.co.za.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, girls. Well, I definitely do want to follow up on the story, because you guys are going away in July. So
Yes,
you
yes.
obviously got some very, very busy times going into that. But we wish you all of the best. And,
Thank you very much.
when you guys come back, you're welcome to come back and share your stories of how much fun it was in
Yeah.
Barcelona and whatever else happens on tour. I'm actually more interested in that. I got to be
I don't know
honest.
if you want to know.
I mean, I've learned so
Yeah.
much today, but I'm completely flat out of questions for you guys.
That's okay.
Water polo is a great sport. It's easy to follow. It's got, as you said, it's a bit like wrestling at times. It's a bit like
Yeah.
basketball. It's got elements of football, and it's certainly a sport that is quick and fast-paced, and something we should follow in future.
Yes.
Girls, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Sean,
Thank
we've
you.
got half an hour left. Of course, we have no Sport Billy with us for the next couple of weeks, so we have no Icon or Sport Willie of the week. But now we're going to just go back to the Gary Kirsten thing. Now, if you were to take a successor in cricket, now, when you think in rugby, coaches mean a hell of a lot. They're always the guys that front up. They're always the guys who are taking the net. Cricket is kind of a bit more out of it. The captain takes a lot more sort of heat. So now, when you're talking about successes, there was talk about Slimingo not quite being the character that could take us further and keep us at world number one. My opinion, though, it's more of a man management job, so we could have various people in there. What's your take on that?
It's a good point, and one of the things that Gary Kirsten stressed with being an international coach is that you're not so much of a coach, you're more of a kind of personal facilitator.
Completely.
You know? So, like, one of his first moves he did was bring in Paddy Upton, and tried it for not just the kind of fitness, but like, just sports psychology idea as well. You know, so that was part of it. It's just you're just kind of facilitating adults that are already trained to perform at the highest level, and it's just coaxing the best performance out of them. So on that level, I would agree. And also, of course, because cricket's more, because it happens slower in between deliveries, you've got more of a kind of council decisions between, like, you know, because there's no ways like a captain is the only person that decides to declare, for instance, you know.
Well, completely.
It's a whole...
Sometimes number 11 doesn't want to bat. There's also that.
Yeah, you know, but, you know, it's a whole bunch of decisions that aren't just done by the captain. It will be like a whole conference with the coaching staff, senior players included, you know. Who knows,
Right.
you know. So I just applaud the same system just being carried on, and that after, like, well, let's just speak just for our successes in the test arena for a second. Just so glad that we're not going down the route of trying to reinvent a wheel that was working really well in the first place, and trying as best as we can to trying to keep the consistency going, see if the team can build.
Well, that's it. It's consistency going forward. We are the world #1 test team right now. The other side doesn't bother me too much, but of course the World Cup is a big deal, and we've got the Champions Trophy coming up. Now, we have an Australian cricket analyst, and hopefully in about 4 minutes, again, holding thumbs, we're going to bring on our second analyst, someone I've got great admiration for, has done great things on the internet. You know, we started this show to kind of showcase to you the greatest sort of people that you should be following on the internet. You know, we can go to Sports 24 and read about Keegan Daniel saying there's too many Afrikaners. You can always get the mainstream stuff out there. The purpose of the show is to uncover sort of hidden gems and people who aren't scared to share their insights, and also have insights that are totally worth sharing. So we're going to take another song now, and hopefully when we come back, that gent, whose name I shall not divulge with you just yet, will be on our airwaves. So this song here, dedication to the show's producers, Maz and Will. I've never heard of it. I hope it's not crap. You listen to BLOGZ on Ballz. It's on. First time we played that in the show. Nice one, Maz. Good choice. Okay, bear with us. We're going to try again to get our sort of special guest on the line here now. We're going to go and call him. Okay, we have a dial tone. It's a good start. Come on.
Come on, you can do it.
Come on, we've got 25 minutes of air. Can't look amateur here. The next voice you should hear is none other than Nishant.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, everybody, this is Alt Cricket on the line. The famous Alt Cricket from the Twitterverse, from the websites, and from MTV-based Bangladesh. This is Nishant Joshi from the Alt Cricket. This is the first time I've actually ever spoken to you in my entire life, even though we do chat on the Twitter. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thanks, Ben. It feels like we're old friends reuniting.
It does. I listen to your podcast on a weekly basis. Nishant with another guy, I think, at Pavilion Cricket. Is that Pavilion? Wait, sorry.
At Pavilion Opinion.
Pavilion Opinion, that's the one.
Yeah.
These guys do a great podcast every week called Radio Cricket, where they basically touch on all the things that we try to do. Over 2 hours, they kind of condense it into a much sort of zippier 20 to 30 minutes.
It's gold. It's a gold podcast, folks. For those
It's
who don't
gold.
listen to it, you have to.
Nishant, the other voice you're hearing is at @simplysean_ from Twitter. He's our co-host, of course, on the show here. So, Nishant, we wanted to bring you on. Obviously, we touched on Gary Kirsten throwing in the towel with the Proteas earlier, but essentially we just want to kind of introduce you to our sort of listeners, because we're going into the Champions Trophy. There'll be more test matches coming up in the year, and we really would love to get you on the show. Of course, your insights are solid gold. What's your take on what's your take on the Gary thing?
Yeah, well, it seems to have come up quite out of the blue to most South African fans. But the good thing is for South Africa is that long term they've been developing for this sort of takeover for quite a few years. I mean, like Russell Domingo coming in, I don't think you could ask for a better person in terms of pure transition. And I think that's the way that international teams seem to be gearing towards their coaching setup these days, is that instead of just having one sort of main coach who they're relying on, and then, for example, as Gary Kirsten has done, he's leaving to spend more time with his family. I think the international teams are realizing that if you have more of a team-based setup, where the coach is, as you guys mentioned before, more of a facilitator than anything else, and more of a man manager, just to keep the team happy. I think that's exactly where coaching is going these days, and South Africa really have a great setup right now in Russell Domingo and Paddy Upton.
Great. So it's kind of what we're touching on as well. It's more of a man management kind of position. I mean, we saw back when the Aussies were so good. That guy, was it John Buchanan?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
no one even knew who he was, other than like a really sort of budget version of Magnum PI, and he was always in the background. And you only really knew about him when he eventually decided to say it's enough, and he left. But that's the thing. Great point. All about the sort of team dynamic, and essentially when the structures are there, you can take over. And this is probably why teams like Pakistan, say West Indies, and other teams maybe don't do it, because they haven't got those structures.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at those sorts of teams like Pakistan and West Indies, they have a history of maybe more coaches with a bit of an ego, coaches who come into the setup from the outside, really. And same with India coaches before as well. I mean, we saw someone like Greg Chappell and how decisive a figure he was. Whereas really, I think, as I mentioned, international teams such as Australia, England, I mean, you looked in now with Andy Flower, you've got Ashley Giles there waiting in the wings, ready to take over. And South Africa, they've really kind of sussed that you don't need a person to coach the technique and that sort of thing. You just need a coach to keep people happy.
Completely. Okay, so then, well, I think we sort of put the water over the flames of the bad thing for Project Cricket. It's all in a good place. What I would like to chat to you about, Nishan, is something that I know nothing of, and this is obviously an intentional thing. What has been happening in the IPL that you can tell us about that's interesting?
Well, quite a lot has been happening. I mean, so far I think we're something like 56 games in or something, so we've still got about 20 games left. And it has been quite interesting overall. It does get kind of nauseating. I always liken it to having fast food for dinner every day. I mean, at some point it's going to get a bit nauseous, a bit tiresome. But at the end of the day, there has been just about enough interesting cricket going on just to keep your interest and to not make you want to throw your TV out the window. I mean, probably the most famous thing that's happened this IPL is Chris Gale's 175 not out off 66 balls, and that was against Pune Warriors a few weeks ago. But that was overshadowed perhaps by David Miller, the South African's brilliant. I think he scored 101 not out off 38 balls last week, and that was one of the best chasing innings you'll ever see. I mean, they needed something like 16 and over when he came in, and he finished it with a few balls to spare. I mean, I think if David Miller can get a go in the Champions Trophy, then South Africa really are looking at going very deep in the tournament. And then even if you look at it last night, I mean, Mumbai needed something like, I think they needed 60 off 24 balls or something like that. They needed 15 and over off the last 4 overs, and even with Dale Steyn, they got there with, I think, 3 balls to spare. So there has been a bit of ridiculous cricket going on in the IPL. There have been some stupidly good catches as well. The standard of fielding has gone up quite a lot, and overall I think the standard of this IPL has been pretty enjoyable on the whole.
60 of like 24. That's like 15 and over.
Yeah.
No, it's just every run rate just seems so gettable these days.
Easy on the stats. We're not having any of the statgasm. But I'm sure, like, the question is, okay, so you said there's still a little bit of cricket going on. Who do you think has really benefited from the IPL in the cricket sense? You know, we talk about David Miller's amazing knock, and if you read the press here in SA the very next day, it was like we're going to win the Champions Trophy tomorrow with him on one leg, you know, with asthma. Like, it was a done deal. Who do you think, I mean, I still think it's bollocks, because I tell you what, someone who bowled to him was probably some guy who is on about 20,000 rupees. It comes in the team. There was a 40-year-old playing the other day. Come on.
Make his debut at 42?
He made his debut at 40. Yeah. Obviously decided to commit to cricket late. But now, have you seen a bit of a trend? Now, you watch this every year. Not because, you know, obviously cricket's your deal. Okay, on Twitter, you are probably the greatest Twitter profile there is when it comes to cricket. So, do you think there's any players that have really benefited from the IPL as far as going into international level, where the bowlers aren't so shite?
Well, in terms of the transition from IPL to international cricket, I mean, probably the one player you look at as an example is Kieran Pollard, and he was the key yesterday for Mumbai's chase. He ended up getting, I think, 66 not out, and he hit at one point he hit 5 sixes in a row. I think it was just unbelievable stuff. And you look at how he's transitioned to international cricket, and he has been kind of slow. it's been the type of thing where you realise that you can't play international cricket in the same way that you play IPL cricket. You can
Sure.
play international cricket a fair bit slower. You need a bit of a brain to play international cricket. I mean, last night, Kieran Pollard, he just had a bash at about 15 balls, and they all went out of the park. I mean, when you do that at international cricket, you're going to face better bowlers. As you said, there's a lot of pony bowling at IPL level. I mean,
Pony
David
bowling.
Miller is great. Yeah, I mean, as great as David Miller's knock was, as great as Chris Gale's knock was, I mean, it was the equivalent of playing stick cricket on the computer. It did get a bit ridiculous at times. The pitches are so stupidly flat, and the grounds are a postcard size. And it's just, you can't play international cricket in the same way that you play IPL cricket. And that's why you found someone like Kieran Pollard finding the transition to the highest level of the game quite difficult. I mean, I think the best example is that when you're trying to hit sixes in international cricket, someone like Kieran Pollard gets caught on the boundary quite often. And I think that's the key difference. The boundaries in IPL are so small that even you or I could probably clear them on a decent.
Hey, I'll have you know, I scored 47 not out 2 weeks ago. That you lump me in like that.
There must have been some real pony bowling there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Oak was having I think he had a beer in his hand. But you know, that's a very good point. We're going to go to Sean now. He's got a burning question, but it's a very good point because people, the uneducated people who kind of listen to sport, I mean, or watch sport, which is most people, let's be honest, they think that if a guy can do that, they then watch the big stuff and they go, why is this so bad? Why are they only scoring at this over rate? You know, they have no idea about what you said now about the grounds being small, about the pitches being batsman friendly, about the pony bowling. So I think it's nice to get a bit of perspective to come in like this, because sometimes the IPL steamrolls fans with all this glitz, glamour and schmaltz, and it just like totally distorts their outlook on the game.
Yeah, well, what I find about the IPL, maybe you can confirm or like deny this type of thing, is just one thing with batsmen is just such obvious bowlers to target in the IPL. It's like, you have 20 overs, at some point you have to get a move on. You know, Dale Stein's bowling at you at one point, and the local kid's going to have some overs that he needs to get rid of at that time, and that's just the obvious time to pounce. And everyone kind of knows it, and it's not going to be like that in international cricket. Do you think that's one of the biggest differences with batting in the IPL or internationally, or what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see yesterday Dale Steyn was playing in the match, and he only went to, I think, 5.7 and over, and the rest of the team went for something like 13 and over combined.
Yeah.
So it does show that, especially this year, Dale Steyn hasn't even picked up that many wickets because teams are actually looking at the team he's playing for, Sunrisers Hyderabad. They're looking at the team and realising that if they play out Steyn, then they've got a few bowlers, they've got a few medium paces, they've got a bowler like Ishant Sharma, who's supposed to be an Indian spearhead, but as he showed again last night, he's very vulnerable. Then you've got a couple of local spinners, and then you've got a couple of international medium paces, for example. You've got Pereira and Darren Sammy, who are decent bowlers, but compared to Steyn, they are definitely the type of bowlers who you can look to target, and that's exactly what Kieran Pollard did last night. He took Tisara Pereira for 29 runs in 1 over, and that essentially won them the match.
And look, cricket's always been criticised for the law changes that have happened, like throughout the decades. That that it's always a batsman's game, and that all advances in the game have been geared towards helping the batsman out. Do you find, with all the IPL cricket that you've watched, has there been some serious advances in bowling, or have the skills become a bit stagnant?
Well, it's a very curious point, because you'd have thought that, I mean, 2020 cricket has been going for over a decade now, so you'd have thought that skill sets would have become a lot more specialised and a lot more specific, but I think in terms of batting, that's definitely advanced. I mean, you look at someone like A.B. de Villiers, he's reverse sweeping bowlers for six. It's unheard of. It would have been unheard of a few years ago, but then you look at the bowling, and you'd have thought that bowlers would have kind of sussed that, especially on generally slower Indian pitches, the balls that you should be looking at are the Yorkers for the depth overs, and you should be looking to bowl things like slower balls, slower bouncers as well. But bowlers just don't tend to execute their skills as well as you might have hoped. I think fielding is one aspect of the game that's really progressed over the past few years, really noticeably. But I think bowling, on the whole, I think strategy-wise, it just hasn't worked out, and the batsmen are really taking advantage of it, because the pitches in the IPL are so small that there's no margin for error at all. So that if you do get an edge, which we see so often, batsmen are toe-ending shots for 6, and it's kind of making a mockery out of the game, to be honest.
Well, there we go. You said it. We'll cut you off with that line there. Listen, thanks so much for joining us. We've got to wrap it up now. We've got to talk about other sporting fixtures coming up in the weekend, and then Sean and I are going to try to sound intelligent by predicting winners. So, look, we're definitely going to have you back. It's been great actually to finally speak to you. First time and on air. Champions Trophy in June. We've got, or the next up in cricket actually, England play New Zealand in Test matches, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's on Thursday.
On Thursday. Zimbabwe and Bangladesh are currently playing, but no one really cares about that. So, yeah, we'll definitely have you back for Champions League. Of course, Graham Smith out for the Proteas. Alvira Peterson has been confirmed, Sean? Confirmed replacement.
It seems like it to me. It seems like Alvira is going to be in.
So we're going to have a bit of a preview with you on that one as far as who the kind of favourites. You got to think, in England at home with the swinging ball, all that you've spoken about now about batsmen having a bit of a step to leg and swing, be a very very different sort of spectacle from what the IPL is right now. So be really interesting to get your thoughts. Thanks so much for joining us. If you want to get more of Alt Cricket on the internet, at Alt Cricket on the Twitter. And Nishan, do you want to talk about your website very quickly?
Yeah, it's alternativecricket.com.
Okay, and he's sporting a new look and feel. So Nishan also has some pretty good writers that come on in a guest capacity. Of course, he is the editor of this fine website, and pretty much one of the websites I go to on a weekly basis. I wouldn't say daily. I'm not that vigilant on the websites, but yeah, every single week I go on there, I get my fix of cricket and the insights that I'm sure you'll enjoy too. Nishan, thanks so much. We're going to play out with a song we're going to dedicate for you right here in SA. It's Lonely Island.